Hi and welcome back to Love English. I'm Leila and today I have got a grammar lesson for you. That's right, today we're going to be looking at advanced English grammar. Grammar that can help you sound more natural, native, and of course can help you in your written work. Today's grammar point, the passive voice. Yes, there is going to be a little bit of challenging grammar here, but I know you can do it if you concentrate. Whether you need to write academic English essays, formal letters, or even a little bit of creative writing, this grammar point is really going to boost your language level. So before we get started, make sure you do click that subscribe button and of course the notifications bell if you haven't already. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, or if you'd like to learn more about me and Sabrah, then you can go to www.loveenglish.co.uk. So we are going to be covering quite a lot of grammar in today's lesson. I suggest you grab a pen and paper or pencil, whichever you prefer, to take notes. You are really going to want to study during this lesson. You need to actively participate in some of the exercises that I do. So grab that pen and paper and get ready to study. Now, you'll probably be surprised to know that the passive voice is very common in English. In fact, you've probably already used it, but you don't even realize it. You've certainly heard it before, or even read it perhaps in a newspaper, or if you do read academic English, you would definitely have read a passive sentence. So let's look at some common examples. Everybody knows to say, I was born in 1990, not my mother bore me in 1990. That sounds a little bit strange. He's called Simon. He's called Simon, not people call him Simon. Very peculiar to say it like that. There are lots more common examples like that besides, and we'll be taking a look at those in a moment. So what are we covering in today's lesson? First, why? Why do we use the passive voice in English? What is its function? It's important to note there are some specific situations that we would regularly use the passive voice in. Secondly, we'll be looking at how the passive voice is structured. We'll be looking at the difference between active and passive sentences in English. So this is going to be a great grammar review. Thirdly, we'll be doing some practice exercises within this lesson, within this video. So you'll want to pay attention and actively try to change some of these active sentences that I give you into the passive. I'll be teaching you 6 simple steps to change the active into passive. So you'll get plenty of practice in this lesson. And finally, we'll be ending with a little bit of a quiz. I will be giving you an exercise in the comment section below that I would like you to copy and paste into your comment and to complete the exercise, and I will check your grammar. First, what is the passive voice? I keep talking about it, but let's just be clear exactly what the difference is between an active sentence and a passive one. In a very basic English sentence, you would have subject, I, verb, kicked, and an object, ball. There we have a transitive verb. Be aware that in the passive voice, it is only really transitive verbs, verbs that take objects that we would transform into the passive voice. Now, when I want to change the sentence from active to passive, I need to move a few things around. The subject goes to the end of the sentence. It may be that you don't even need to mention the subject. The object goes to the beginning of the sentence to form the new subject. And the verb will be changed from active, in this case, kicked is a past tense, to the passive, in this case, was kicked. I'll be explaining that more in just a moment. The ball was kicked by me. You might not even want to say by me, you might just want to say the ball was kicked. Now, what we have done is we have changed the focus from the subject to the object. The ball becomes more important than the person who kicked it. Ordinarily, in English sentences, the subject is more important. But in the passive voice, the object is the focus of the sentence. So let's look at some reasons why we need to make the object the most important thing in the sentence. Number 1, when you don't know who the subject is, or they're not very important. You may not even want to mention the subject for whatever reason. My chocolates were eaten. I might not know who ate my chocolates. Someone ate my chocolates. The active there. Passive. A 25-year-old woman was murdered last night. Now, this is a good example of a sentence you might see on a newspaper headline where you don't know who committed the crime. Number 2, when it's obvious who the person is. When really the people that have done the action or the person, it's very clear and it doesn't need explaining. For example, 10 men were arrested. Now, who can arrest a person? A police officer. So if 10 men were arrested, it is obvious that police officers arrested 10 men. Now, a very important reason why we use the passive voice in academic and formal English is that it can sound more impersonal. And in academic and formal English, it is very important to sound impersonal. Not because you're sounding impolite, but because you're trying to sound polite and professional, in fact. So in academic English and business English, the passive voice in written form and indeed spoken can be really useful. And of course, if you've taken the IELTS exam, you'll know that the passive voice can also be used for processes. So, some examples. It has been brought to my attention. It has been brought to my attention. Not Bob from HR brought this to my attention. It could be suggested that. It could be suggested that. Again, you wouldn't say people have suggested. It's a really good way of avoiding the personal pronoun I or indeed any personal pronouns in an academic English essay. The bottles are then filled with cola. The bottles are then filled with cola. Here we have a good example of a process, how Coca-Cola bottles or Coca-Cola is made. So as I said before, the job of the passive is to change the focus from the subject to the object, even if we know who the subject is. So be aware, when we do include the original subject at the end of the sentence, or what we would call an agent at this point, the agent of the sentence, we need to change to an object pronoun and we need to use the preposition by. It's very important that you do include that. For example, she ate my chocolates. She ate my chocolates. There we have a nice clear example of an active sentence. But in passive, my chocolates were eaten by her. There we have the object pronoun. So just make sure when you do include the subject after the preposition by, that you make sure you change it to an object pronoun. So just to refresh those pronouns, just remember, subject he, object him, subject she, object her, subject they, object them, subject we, object us. Subject I, object me. It and you are the same in both subject and object, so that's one less to remember. Let's have a look at the steps we need to take in order to transform active to passive. Looking at chocolate. First, Sabrah eats the chocolates. Identify first the object in the sentence. Got it? That's right, the chocolates. Bring that to the front of the sentence. Make it the new subject. Then, identify the main verb. So in order to transform this verb from active to passive, we need to first use the verb to be in the present tense. Now remember, there are 3 forms of the present to be: is, am, and are. Make sure that you do conjugate your verbs with the noun. If it's a plural, you will need are. If it is he, she, it, you will need is. If it's I, then you will need am. In this case, the chocolates, plural, are. So we use the verb are, and then we take the main verb and we put it into the past participle. In this case, eaten. The chocolates are eaten by Sabrah, or by her, not she. Remember to use that object pronoun. Sabrah ate the chocolates. Sabrah ate the chocolates. Here we've got the past simple, so the same thing. Identify the object, move it to the front to make the new subject, the chocolates, past tense of to be, in the plural form, the chocolates were, plus past participle, eaten by Sabrah. The chocolates were eaten by Sabrah. Sabrah has eaten the chocolates. What tense is it? That's right, the present perfect. Now, with the present perfect, of course, we do need to have the present perfect tense in the passive form. So we need to take the perfect tense and use it with the verb to be. So rather than has eaten, we need have been, have been. The chocolates have been. Pay attention, we've conjugated the verb there with the noun because we've gone from she, Sabrah, to they, chocolates, a plural form. The chocolates have been, what do we need next? The chocolates have been eaten by Sabrah. Next, Sabrah had eaten the chocolates when I arrived. Let's change this in the same way. This time you don't have to worry about conjugating the verb because had is the same with all nouns. The chocolates had been eaten by Sabrah when I arrived. So that was the past perfect. Next, Sabrah will eat the chocolates. Sabrah will eat the chocolates. Future simple. Change this. The chocolates will be eaten. The chocolates will be eaten by Sabrah. Let's really go advanced and look at the future perfect. Sabrah will have eaten the chocolates. Sabrah will have eaten the chocolates. The chocolates will have been eaten. Wow, if you're still with us, you're doing such a great job. We really are looking at some more complex sentences here. And finally, be going to. Sabrah is going to eat the chocolates. The chocolates are going to be eaten. You'll notice there that I haven't included the present perfect continuous or the past perfect continuous. In actual fact, we don't use the passive voice with those sentences. Technically, it's possible, but it sounds very strange. Let's look at an example. He has been counting the money. There we have an example of the present perfect continuous. He has been counting the money. Technically, the correct passive form would be the money has been being counted. Wow, does that sound strange to you? It does to me. Now really with the present perfect continuous and the past perfect continuous, the focus is on the action more. And in this case, it would make more sense for us to focus on the action using the present continuous. The money is being counted. The money is being counted. So at least that's one less thing you have to learn. You wouldn't be using the present perfect continuous or past perfect continuous in the passive tense. At least not that I can think of any examples. So let's review those 6 steps of changing a passive sentence to an active. Number 1, identify the subject, object, and verb in the sentence. Number 2, move the object to the front of the sentence to make it the new subject. Number 3, check the verb tense. Is it present simple? Is it be going to? Future perfect? Present perfect? Make sure you know which tense you're dealing with. Number 4, conjugate the verb to be with the new subject of the sentence. So it is the same tense as the verb in the active sentence. Number 5, add the past participle of the main verb. So eat becomes eaten, do becomes done, swim becomes swum. Make sure you refresh and check your past participles. And finally, number 6, if you do want to keep the subject in the sentence, it becomes the agent at the end by adding by. Now remember, before you change any sentence from active to passive, do check that you actually need to do it. Is there a good reason? Any of the 3 reasons I gave you before? Do you not know who the subject is, or is it not important? Is it obvious who the subject is and the focus needs to be more on the object? Or are you using it for more academic and formal purposes? Are you trying to be more impersonal in your written form or even spoken form of English? So here we go, a little bit of practice I want you to do with me using those 6 steps. Can you transform these sentences into the passive? Number 1, builders built Big Ben in 1843. Identify the subject, object and verb. Take the object to the front of the sentence. Conjugate the verb to be with the new subject in the tense of the original active sentence. Add the past participle of the main verb. And then if you want to, add the subject. By. Big Ben was built in 1843. Next, these ones you're on your own. One day, scientists will discover a cure for the common cold. One day, scientists will discover a cure for the common cold. One day, a cure for the common cold will be discovered. Some people have found a World War II bomb. A World War II bomb has been found. The police arrested Sabrah. The police arrested Sabrah. Sabrah come on, was arrested. Leila is going to kill Sabrah. Leila is going to kill Sabrah for eating her chocolates. Sabrah, come on, is going to be killed by Leila. Not true, don't worry. I'm not that serious when it comes to chocolate. So how did you do? Are you feeling confident? Are those 6 steps helping you to transform an active sentence into a passive? So over to you. I am going to give you 10 sentences in the comments section below. Copy and paste them into your comments box, and I want you to change those sentences from active to passive. See if you can take the Love English Grammar Challenge. I'll respond with the answers and correct your English. That's it, guys. A bit of a meaty lesson. If you've lasted all the way to the end, thank you so much and well done. You are definitely a serious English language learner. So I look forward to seeing you for lots more grammar practice with Love English. Don't forget, do your homework below.